Let's take a look at how we can go and make a project in Xcode. Now, you need to go to File, New, and you should see here that this is the template that comes up. What it should say is that this is a new project. Now, you can see that there are different kinds of applications here. There's iOS, the WatchKit OS, and then OS X here. There is a difference between all of these. First of all, iOS is for anything that's mobile. Now, that means iPhone and iPad. And to a certain extent, it's going to be the watch too. And it's only been recently that the watch has been kind of its own separate OS here. All right, so you can see here that even if you go to the watch OS here, it says iOS. Okay, now what iOS is the operating system. It's everything that you need to make the iPhone, the iPad, or the Apple Watch actually work. Right? Now, the other thing is that there is OS X, which is everything for your MacBook or your iMac or whatever, right? It's for computers. Now, these two are similar, but they're not the same, okay? And what happens here is that if you want to code in Swift or Objective-C, which is the other language that has typically been used with Apple products, if you look at these two languages, they're actually different between OS X and iOS. So they're mostly the same, but there are small differences. So, for example, even if you want to change a label, which I'll show you how to do, by the way, if I show you how to change a label, it will be a little bit different. And sometimes things are a little bit different in iOS to OS X here. So let's take a look at this here, and let's take a look at the application tab in iOS. So we have a master detail, a page base, a single view, a tabbed application, and a sprite kit game. Now, one of the best parts about Xcode is that it actually gives you quite a bit of information. So we have master detail, page based, and you can see that there is at the bottom there's a template there. We got a single view, tab, and then we have a game here. Now, all of these work slightly differently. Right? And the Sprite Kit game actually works quite a bit differently from an app. And, this is what game architecture looks like. It is a little bit different than app architecture, and that has to do with interactivity. Games are much more interactive than apps are. When you think about that, for example, imagine if you're playing a game like Mario. You're constantly interacting with it. You're running, you're jumping, you're getting a power up or whatnot. But an app, you might do a couple of actions, let it sit for a bit, and then keep on using it. So there is a difference, and I won't get into the technicals here, but the short answer is that there's much more interactivity with games than there are with apps. What we're going to be doing here is working with a single view application. And this single view application is going to be what we're going to be working with, just because it is the easiest and it works the best. Okay. Now you can see here that we have our product name, our organization name, our organizational identifier, language, device, etc. So let's call this 1 hour Swift tutorial. Okay. And the name of your app can be whatever you want, of course. And you don't necessarily have to set it right now. You can always change it later. It's a little bit more cumbersome to change the name of your app because the way that Xcode is set up, the name of your app actually gets embedded into the code. And once it gets embedded into the code, you can't just change a name like you change a file. You're actually changing how that app works and how the name of your file references everything else. And if that sounds confusing, all you need to know is that the name of your project is included within the code, and if you change it, it might not work. But for now, you can just put whatever you want. The organizational name and the organizational identifier, you don't necessarily need to be concerned with right now. What we need to be concerned with is to, essentially code in Swift, and these are more for uploading to the App Store. Now you have the option of going into Swift or Objective-C, and you also have the option of having an iPhone, an iPad, or a Universal. And if you want to make an iPhone app exclusively, you select iPhone. If you want to make iPad app, you select iPad. And if you wanted to use both, so it works on both iPhone and iPad, you use Universal. It's actually really good that you can do this here. And the rest of the items are not really that important as of now. We're just going to make a simple iPhone app, and then you're going to go ahead and push create here. Now, as you saw, I had a ton of Xcode projects. The Xcode projects actually are not that big, and it's very easy to upload them and update them to the cloud. Again, save your data and save it to the cloud and an external hard drive. Don't be like me where you've lost major projects due to hard drives failing or pretty much hard drive failings, or power outages is the other one where you lose data. But for the most part, that's what you need to do. Once you have that here, you now have Xcode open. Okay, and it might take a bit of time for it to load up atop here, but for the most part, that's how you create an Xcode project. This concludes the tutorial.